Now, the United States has suspended planned tariffs and sanctions on Colombia after a resolution was reached to allow it to return migrants. The Colombian president earlier turned away 2 American military aircrafts carrying deported Colombian migrants. U.S. President Donald Trump retaliated by threatening tariffs on all Colombian imports. He also threatened to cancel visas for Colombian officials. The White House says Colombia has now agreed to accept those deported from the U.S. Well, we'll get reaction from our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett in just a moment. But first, let's go to Alessandro Rampietti, who's in Colombia's capital, Bogota, for us. So, Alessandro, it looks like then they've reached this agreement. The White House saying that the Colombian government caved and agreed to all of President Trump's terms. How is it being portrayed in Colombia? Why did the government in Bogota change its mind?
Well, Folly, there are a number of things to consider here. First of all, it became clear throughout the day that Colombia faced some significant risks in starting a trade war with the United States. And we know now that while President Petro wanted to present a strong stance, ideological stance against President Donald Trump, at the same time, his ministers, his diplomatic team were trying to diffuse the flames pretty much from the start. There were widespread calls that only grew stronger throughout Sunday in economic and political circles here in Colombia, asking the government to solve this both quickly and diplomatically. I spoke to the Colombian ambassador in the U.S. earlier today, and he said that President Petro, while he was presenting his stance, he was also directing his team to speak to the United States and see how they could iron out this situation and solve the crisis. On the other hand, what the government is trying to do now is to present this as a win-win, saying, yes, okay, we backed down, but at the same time, the U.S. has also accepted a more humane protocol. So we're going to have to see if indeed and how these deportation flights arrive here, if these deportees will be shackled or not. And finally, this is a way for Gustavo Petro to present himself as an anti-Trump leader in South America, in the global South, a narrative that he will continue to push on Thursday in a meeting of CELAC, a regional body here where he's trying to present himself as that leader.
Thank you, Alessandro, for that. Alessandro Rampietti, live for us there in Bogota. Let's now bring in our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, in Washington, D.C. Kimberly, more immigration raids are expected across the U.S. this week, and the U.S. also sending flights to countries like Guatemala and Mexico, but not everyone is cooperating.
Yeah, that's right. What we know is that there is certainly concern by many of the countries. But at the same time, what we should also point out is that these deportation flights are not new. In fact, under the Biden administration, the country of Colombia, for example, was 5th after Honduras, Mexico, and El Salvador for accepting deportation flights. In fact, Colombia had between 2020 and 2024 accepted 475 of these deportation flights. What made these flights suddenly a flashpoint under President Trump was the issue of the type of aircraft. He wanted these aircraft to be civilian aircraft, not cargo military aircraft. And so he deemed these to be inhumane. And so as a result, that is what made this a flashpoint. Now, what we should point out as well, the White House is trying to make clear that this is, when it comes to these immigration enforcement measures, they are targeting criminals, people with severe criminal backgrounds. In other words, murderers, sex offenders. They do admit that some who have no criminal histories are being swept up. But the focus of these raids so far is to go after undocumented migrants who have committed crimes either in this country or in their countries of origin.
Kimberly, thank you very much. Kimberly Halkett live there at the White House. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.